Hey, my lovely people. Welcome back to A Black Cat's Voice. I'm your host, Kat, here with a brand new episode, a brand new topic, just in time for my birthday, which is on the 25th, February 25th, because Pisces season, the best time, the best time. But, I'm saying that with the bias, obviously, but it's always the best time to be alive, if you say it is. So, on this episode, my topic is the gift of life. The gift of life. Life itself is such a gift. It's such a gift and it's so beautiful, because the best present is being able to be present, So when it comes to life, being a gift, I'm not just talking about this because it's my birthday. I also wanted to address a question I feel like I get asked, and y'all need to stop asking people, not just me, but when I'm gonna have kids. When are you gonna have kids? Everybody's always like, oh, Kat, you're so loving, you're so nurturing, when are you gonna have kids? Oh, don't you wanna have some babies? And let me just say on behalf of everybody, on behalf of me being a person who believes in people should mind their business, stop asking people when they're gonna have kids. There are so many layers to why a person doesn't have kids. Like for me specifically, I want to speak on why, as a Black woman now, presently, why I don't have kids. The many layers to it. So, one thing a lot of people don't realize is that when it comes to how, Black women come up, especially, if you look like me, I have 4C hair, right? So having 4C hair, growing up in a Black household, my hair was always permed. And when you have perms in your hair, they're very strong chemicals that can burn your scalp and literally make your hair bleed, make your head raw. It's really a terrible experience, but it makes your hair look straight. And for a lot of people, that's a better look. But as a child, as you get older, it actually makes you hate yourself, as it did me. It made me really hate how my hair naturally grows out my head because I felt like something was wrong with it, So another layer to being a child is that as I got older and, I reached, adolescence and whatnot, teen years, and I started to have really painful periods. I would have such a painful time of the month, and when I would go to the doctor, they would always either ignore it or say like, oh, well, we'll just put you on birth control. And even when I would have bad reactions to the birth control, they would always just be like, oh, well, we'll just try another kind and another kind and another kind, to where I just now like have so many issues that I never had before I was ever on birth control. So I'm not saying this is the experience for everybody, but I'm saying that is another factor that is why I don't have children, because, when you have a lot of issues going on with your body, it makes it hard for you to have kids. There's so many Black women, especially, it's very predominant in the Black community that a lot of our women have fibroids. They have PCOS, they have endometriosis. And when you have those things, even if you're blessed enough to have a baby, a lot of us have miscarriages. And when you have miscarriages, you don't necessarily want to keep having children, back to back, or keep trying to have children back to back, because it's so scary to think if you'll lose another child. Like on Mother's Day, they don't have no, as far as I know, they don't have no cards for the mothers who have babies that aren't physically here, So it's just, in a lot of ways, like my pain, especially as a Black woman, has been ignored, or I've been told it's all in my head. Even a lot of the medicines that they've given me have never helped me, only just caused other issues later on. And even historically, if y'all haven't heard, or y'all can look up, the Tuskegee experiment, there are so many examples of how a lot of modern medicine was tested on Black people, to where Black people have that fear of going to the doctor. A lot of the older people don't like going to the doctor, because how do you give me medicine for one thing and then I'll leave with something else? Why is it always like that? And then when you have a chronic illness, or even if you don't have a chronic illness, the thing is, when you have a baby or when you're pregnant for almost a year. So that's a lot of time to have to be going back and forth to the doctor, especially if on a regular basis, if I come to, and I'm talking top doctors. I've been, at top facilities and still had doctors, treat me as if the pain is all in my head, or if I'm just trying to get pain medicine, or, it's just like, even historically, a lot of people have been taught that Black people don't feel pain the same. So as a Black woman, childbirth is one of the scariest things you can experience. And even scarier than that to me is the thought of, what if I'm saying that I'm in pain while I'm having my baby and they don't believe me, And what if in the moment I do get my miracle, I do get to have a baby, and my baby gets to be the miracle, but then I have to go, like, that's something a lot of us think about. And there's so many unfortunate stories where this actually happened. Like, I don't know if y'all know about Kira Dixon Johnson. This was a Black woman who had her baby at Cedars-Sinai, which is one of the top hospitals in LA. Y'all could look it up for yourself. I think Beyonce might have had one of her babies there. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Cedars-Sinai is one of the top hospitals. This lady delivered her baby there. They did a C-section on her in 17 minutes, and she passed away. So it's literally like, this is another example of something that it's really, terrifying to think, like, what if you're really in pain and you're supposed to be experiencing, the best gift of life, being able to have a child, and then nobody believes you, and then it costs you your life, like, I can't wait to have kids. I can't wait to be a mother, but it is definitely something that I think about. And even when it comes to a lot of the other Black women that I know in my life, I always think about, how they treat us at hospitals, how they ignore our pain, how even, even in the media, a lot of the time, it's like, a lot of our pain will be painted as it's not that bad, as we have to be tough, because Harriet Tubman was tough, or we got to be strong and take a stand. Like, no, like, like, take care of us. If we say we're in pain, help us out, take care of us. And I just feel like life itself is such a gift. And that's why, even with the thought of having a beautiful child, I always think about, how will this world treat my baby? How will this world treat my children? It's just so many layers to things. And that's one of the many reasons I don't have children yet. And I really feel for people who, same thing, have stood on business on that decision of, I'm not having children until I feel ready, no matter who asks, no matter who don't like it, no matter who feels uncomfortable with it, because life itself is such a gift and not to be taken for granted. I'm not going to take my life for granted by trying to just randomly have a child, as well as I'm not going to take my child's life for granted before they even get here, because this world is really something else. It really is, So I'm going to end it here and, say happy early birthday to all the Pisces out there, all the Pisceans. It is our time to shine. And I just want to say to everybody else, please take care of yourselves. Please remember that the best present is to be present, because life itself is such a gift. So thank you so much for listening.